Okay, good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you all for participating to this Info Day regarding the Pianoforte 2024 open call. Before coming to this second Pianoforte call, I would like to come back very quickly to the feedback from the first call. I think we can consider that from the point of view of the coordination team and the point of view of the executive board, this first call was a success. It was a success, first of all, because there was a large participation of the different organizations, since 24 projects were submitted, which is a lot. And finally, 9 projects were selected, and they have started last month or 2 months ago. The other reason for the satisfaction is the fact that this first call made it possible to integrate around 25 new organizations into the Pianoforte consortium, and it represented nearly 20 European countries. And having these new partners on board was an important goal of the Pianoforte partnership. So today's webinar will be divided into 2 parts. First of all, Thomas from NCBR in Poland, who is in charge of the organization of the calls and also of the evaluation of the project, will give you a general presentation of this 2024 call for project. And after his presentation, I will quickly come back to some legal and administrative aspects. And in the second part, you will have the opportunity to ask questions, which we will be happy to answer. So before giving the floor to Thomas, I would like to remind you that you will find a lot of information in the different documents that we have on the Pianoforte website, and Thomas will remind you about these documents. And being part of the coordination team, I would like to insist on the fact that it's important to read these documents. During the preparation of the first call, we received really a lot of questions, many more than 100, and about 90% of these questions could have been answered by reading the documents. So please, I think, have a pity for the coordination team and carefully read the documents. So thank you for your attention, and Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jean-Christophe, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me start my presentation. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, I hope you can see it right now. If yes, then I will proceed further.
Yes.
So today I will just shortly describe you the general rules and conditions of the call. Firstly, I will explain you where to find the proper information, then the timeline, call topics, application general criteria, eligible organizations, consortium composition, and the budget. Later on, we will talk about the evaluation and selection of the projects. Finally, summary and useful information at the end. I will mention something about the funding agencies and institutions requirements, but about that later. So first of all, where to find the information? Main source of the information is, of course, the Pianoforte website. You can find all the information in the Open Call 2024. The most important, as Jean-Christophe just mentioned, is of course the call text. It's not the same as it was last year. It has been updated, so I basically can only repeat what just Jean-Christophe said. Please read the call text carefully, because it's very important during the writing the proposal. Another important document is a guideline for applicants, together with proposal template and financial Excel sheet. Also, you will be able to find the CV template, which at the later stage you need to upload on the submission system website. Also, we recommend you to check our website, maybe not daily, but check it from time to time, because sometimes there might be some updates to the call text or other call documents. Basically, the latest update was actually yesterday to the call text. So please read the news section, and you can find all the information about that. Timeline of the call. So as you know, we launched the call on the 23rd of April. Application time will take from April to 23rd of July. 23rd of July at 3 p.m. is the deadline for submission. It's very important to remember that this deadline cannot be individually extended. So all the application must be submitted via the electronic submission system. The same as last year, we will not accept any applications sent by email. So that's very important to remember about that. From July to November, there will be evaluation stage, including eligibility check and like review panel meetings, and it will be finalized with the funding decision of General Assembly in December, most likely. We are expecting that the projects from this call will start between February and March 2025. This year we have 4 call topics. I think you are all familiar with them, so I won't be reading them because you can find them easily on the website, also in the call text. But there are 4 call topics. The most important is that each project proposal need to address at least one of the call topic. Not at least, only one call topics, and should consider when it's appropriate the aspect which are also mentioned in the call text, meaning stakeholders, and especially the education and training, quality assurance, open access, infrastructure, social science and humanities, communication, and links with international initiatives. The new thing, comparing to the last call text and the last call, there is a section about artificial intelligence. As we are aware that some of you can use the AI tools to create the proposal, but this must be mentioned in the project description. You must mention which type of the tool you use, which measures have been taken, and there is a whole section about AI. So basically, again, please read the call text, because those information must be in the project proposal at the later stage. Sorry. Okay. Now about the general criteria. So of course, all the joint proposal must be written in English and must be submitted via the electronic submission system. The website is, I mean, you can find the link to the system on our website. And it must be submitted before 23rd of July at 3 Central European Summer Time. As I mentioned before, the server will not accept proposals after this time. The proposal should respect the appropriate format and limits on length. That's all described in guidelines for applications, for applicants, and also in the call text. The project consortium is composed out of at least 3 independent legal entities from at least 3 different European member states or Euratom program associated countries, and there shall be at least 1 external entity to the current Pianoforte consortium participating in the proposal. That's very important to be sure that the composition of your consortium fit to our minimum criteria. I will talk about that in the next slide actually as well. Projects are expected to start between February and March 2025 and not to exceed 48 months of realization of the duration of Pianoforte. So the maximum length of the project is 48 months. The call is open to research partners from all over the world, persons, groups, and entities that are subject to EU financial administrative sanctions or are in exclusion situation are barred from the participation. And to know more about that, please read Euratom Work Program 2023-2025 on the page 96 to 97. Those entities are mentioned there. Eligible organizations. So eligible organizations are beneficiaries of Pianoforte, which are listed in Annex A, also affiliated entities also listed in Annex 8, and the third parties, which can be higher educations, clinical public health sector organizations, and enterprises. There can be also new partners integrated to Pianoforte through the open call. So as so-called new affiliated entities. But I will say a little bit more about that in the next slide. Here, I just would like to express that this year we do not require any commitment letter from the third parties that they have secured funds for the participation. So of course you need to have secure funds, but this year we do not require the official letter, which then you would need to upload to the system. So about new affiliated entities, as I mentioned before, we are expecting and also giving the opportunity to introduce new affiliated entities to the Pianoforte. It might happen if there is a legal link to the beneficiaries of the Pianoforte. And in this case, if you want to apply it for the status of a new affiliated entity, you must send to us these legal documents which can prove this legal link. Actually, it should be sent by beneficiary to the call secretariat, and then the call secretariat forward it to the coordinator, and coordinator will send it to the European Commission. The final decision of I'm sorry, could you mute yourself? That would be way easier. Thank you. The final decision will be taken by European Commission, and we will inform you about that. But what is the most important in this place, that these documents should be sent to the call secretariat before you submit your proposal, or at least before the deadline for the submission, just to give us enough time to be able to verify your status. You also need to remember that this status of new affiliated entity might have a big impact to your proposal. So if the status of affiliated entity is rejected by European Commission, the participant will be considered as another kind of participation with the financial consequences attached, which means that it might completely change your project. So it's very important for all applicants to be sure what is the status of each of the partner of the consortium. Minimum consortium composition. Each consortium is made out of the following members. So as I mentioned before, at least 3 legal entities. And here, please remember that subcontractors will not be counted as the project partners. Each of those 3 legal entities must be established in different EU member states or Euratom program associated country. Right now it's only Ukraine. So here is very important to remember that the United Kingdom is not an EU member state, and it's not associated to Euratom program. And that's very important, because then it might again have a big impact to eligibility of your proposal. All 3 legal entities must be independent from of each other. So it means that there cannot be any legal link between those entities. at least one of those three mentioned members is an external entity, so non-Pianoforte beneficiary or non-affiliated entity to the current Pianoforte consortium participating in the proposals. And here is also very important to check the section related to the third party participation rules and conditions on the page 20 and 21 of the call text. Eligible consortium shall fulfill all mentioned rules above. So basically all those requirements must be met to consider your consortium eligible. And as I said, it's a minimum requirements for the consortium. So basically, there is no maximum number of the participants. However, we kindly ask you to have appropriate number of the partners, especially there should be some balance between the task in the consortium and their participation in the consortium. A bit more about consortium composition. So the number of participants and their research contribution should be appropriate for the aims of the transnational research projects and reasonably balanced. So as I already mentioned, each consortium must nominate a project coordinator amongst the project's principal investigators. For practical administrative reasons, we recommend you that the coordinator belongs to the current Pianoforte beneficiary organization or one of their affiliated entity. However, there is a possibility that, for example, an associated partner can become a coordinator of the project or someone from the third party. That's possible. However, it might be a bit more complicated, especially if we talk then about all those administrative things which need to be done after the selection of the projects. The project coordinator will represent the consortium externally and towards the call secretariat of Pianoforte and Pianoforte coordinator. And it will be responsible for internal scientific management, such as controlling, reporting, intellectual property rights issues, and the contacts with the call secretariat of or the Pianoforte coordinator. Each project partner will be represented by one principal investigator only with a joint proposal. Each project partner's principal investigator will be the contact person. Each principal investigator can also submit only one proposal as a project coordinator. That's very important. So basically you can be in a few different projects. However, you can be project coordinator only in one project. Otherwise, the proposal will be rejected. Application and budgetary aspects. So the total budget available for this second Pianoforte call, sorry, that's my mistake, of course, the second Pianoforte call for proposal is 13 million euro. Pianoforte considers the proposals with total budget from 1 million up to 1.5 million euro would allow the specific challenges of the second Pianoforte call to be addressed appropriately. What does it mean? It literally means that we can accept only proposals with the budget from 1 million euro up to 1.5 million euro. That's a set limit, and you need to stick to that. So that's very important. Also very important information here is that the cost of all participants, including associated partners, shall be included in the total budget. So again, from the lessons which we learned last year, there were some proposals which had the partners in the consortium, and there were zero cost reported to the partner. So this year we cannot accept this situation because it's another time when we highlighting that the cost of all participants should be included in the total budget. We really need to know what's the real budget of the proposal, even if you're not requesting this money. So, for example, you have associated partner who doesn't request any money, but we need to know what is the value of his contribution to its contribution to the proposal. So please be sure that all partners added to the consortiums in the system have reported cost. Otherwise, it might create a lot of problems during the eligibility check. For all financial matters, please contact directly IRSN. Here you can see the email. This email is also available in the call text and on our website. So now about evaluation and selection of the projects. So as I mentioned, after you submit the proposal, we will start eligibility check. We will check those general criteria which I have mentioned before. Then it will be a merit-based evaluation, including excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. This procedure is divided between two steps. First is remote evaluation, and then online peer review panel meeting. The threshold is 3 points per each criterion and 10 points per project. So basically, to be like to have a chance to be selected, you must meet this criteria of 3 points per each criterion, and also 10 points minimum for the per project in total. So all proposals below 10 points, or if in one criterion will below 3, will be automatically rejected. It's important to mention that the whole project will evaluation process will be observed by an independent observer, who then create observer report. So that I mean that's giving us this. It's giving us assurance that the whole project it was conducted in the good way. There will be one merge ranking list for all 4 topics. However, it's important to remember that the first 4 places will be secured for the best proposals out of each call topics. It's also different than this than last year, but the maximum of only 3 projects per topic will be selected. And then if the budget is available, the Pianoforte General Assembly will follow the ranking list afterwards. We're expecting around 8 to 9 projects to be selected and funded. Also important information this year that the readdress procedure will be available only for 2 weeks after our eligibility decision. So after eligibility decision, you will have 2 weeks to appeal. But what you need to remember that this readdress procedure covers only the procedural aspects of the evaluation or eligibility check. So we will not call into question the scientific or technical judgment of the peer review panel experts. So summary and useful information, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the joint proposals must be written in English and all submitted documents must be in English. It must be done via the online submission system, so PT Outline. Submission deadline is 23rd July 2024 at 3 p.m. Central European Summer Time. The proposal must meet appropriate formats and limits for the project description. They're all described in the call text and the guidelines for applicants. You must be sure about the appropriate consortium composition. So if you have any questions, of course, please send us an email and we will try to answer you as soon as possible. Projects will start between February and March 2025. Again, one of the most important things, the deadline to prove a legal link of the new affiliated entity, as I mentioned before, is July 23rd. At the latest. So please make sure that you will do it as soon as possible. Also, it's for your it also for your own benefit, because as soon as you know and you are sure about the status of your partners, then you are able to create a proper proposal and with a proper budget. What I didn't mention before, the submitted proposals cannot be edited anymore. So that's why it's very important, because if you submit the proposal, then you cannot change anything in that proposal, especially after the deadline. And so the next point is the max duration of the projects. It is 48 months of Pianoforte duration. The total budget of each project should be between 1 million euro up to 1.5 million euro, including all participating partners. Email to call secretariat is cs.pianoforte@ncbr.gov.pl. Financial matter here, as I said before, is direct contact with the coordinator at ERSN, and all information and updates can be found on the Pianoforte Partnership EU website. And the last point, funding agencies and institutions. So the same as last year, we have a possibility to include funding agencies and institutions to the open call. However, it did not happen last year. So far, we do not have any institutions so far, but there is a possibility of that. And if anyone would be interested, there is in the call text there is a template, national requirements template, which must be filled out and sent to us, and then we will include those information on the website. But so far there is nobody. And I think that's it from my side. As once again, if you have any question, please send us an email. And if you have any further questions right now, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for this very clear presentation. So as I told you at the beginning of this webinar, I intended to make a short presentation about legal aspects. However, I consider that everything has been addressed by the very nice presentation by Thomas. So what I suggest is that we start with the questions and with some practical cases. And what I suggest to do is to start with the questions that we have in the chat. I know that there will be a lot of questions about the status of the different partners. The question that we have very often is about the legal link that should exist between a beneficiary and an affiliated entity. So to establish this, to demonstrate this legal link, you have to provide to the call secretariat documents that prove that there is a link that exists between the two organizations, either on the form of a cooperation agreement or a collaboration agreement that should have started before the beginning of the project. So what you have to do is before July 23 to send this document to the call secretariat that will transmit this document to IRSN, that will send it to the commission that will give his approval. So it's very difficult to define exactly what is this kind of document, but generally, if you have a document with the signatures of the two directors of the two organizations, I would say it's okay, because it proves that there is a strong collaboration between the two organizations. Is there a possibility to include or to become in the future new beneficiary, as we all know that we had a lot of problem with affiliated entity in different countries? I think there is no problem to include a new beneficiary, but you know that it's not up to Pianoforte or even to the EC to decide who is a beneficiary? A beneficiary is designated by its country. So if you want to apply as a beneficiary, you need to provide a letter from a ministry or a high-level organization in your country that designate you as a beneficiary. So it's really a national issue. So if you provide this kind of document, you can apply as a beneficiary. But I think that until now the case did not happen because all the country already designated their beneficiary. Is it possible for third parties in a successful proposal to get direct financing from IRSN? The answer is clearly no, because you know that if you are a third party, you will be funded 100%. 63% of the budget will come from the Commission, and the remaining will come from the beneficiary you are depending on. So the vocation of IRSN is not to fund a third party, except if we have a given interest. So clearly the answer is no. So if third parties want to apply, they have to be in contact with an affiliated entity or a beneficiary, and to be sure that they will provide the 37% budget remaining. Does total budget include the co-funding from the partners? Yes, 1.5 million euro, and Thomas explained that. It's the total budget. That means for a project with a total budget of 1.5 million euro, in general, it's EC budget of around 800, or I don't remember now. It's 73% of this sum. It's 900%. It's 900 kilo euro usually. Please, could you confirm that an Ukrainian institution can participate with the role of beneficiary and receive funding if the project is funded? So it's up to the Ukrainian government to design a beneficiary if they want, but we can fund a Ukrainian team. It has been done during the first call, and the two groups that are participating in the project after the first call. One is an affiliated entity from a platform, I would say, and the other one is a third party funded by another European organization. Can the external entity required to participate receive funding from the program? Yes, sure. What you are asking here is an external entity, if it's not a beneficiary or not, or a non-affiliated entity, it's a third party. So they can receive 63%, but the remaining has to be paid by a beneficiary because they will be funded at 100%. That's exactly what Thomas explained. If affiliated entity is a coordinator, must the beneficiary to be part in the... I think the question is, if there is an affiliated entity in a project, do we need also to have the beneficiary into the project? I don't want to say a mistake. Thomas, can you answer this question?
Yes, of course, if there is an affiliated entity as a coordinator, for example, performing research in the project, as we have a cascade funding, there must be a beneficiary, of course, but yeah, then the role of beneficiary will be only management, meaning no scientific activities in the project. But it like this beneficiary must be mentioned in the proposal only as a, and in this case that can be a partner with zero. So basically that's the only case when the one of the partner in the proposal can report zero cost, because for example it's only management, yeah, or like small sum, like I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 euros just for the management cost. But the system will let you to indicate it that this partner only performing management roles. So yeah, it must be mentioned and it can report zero in this case.
Thank you, very clear, Thomas. Do we have new messages? Okay, so now we can have oral questions. So can you raise your hand if you want to ask a question? Almudena, please.
Good afternoon. In fact, I was going to ask the same that somebody in the chat, because you are always saying that with third parties, the 37% of the budget has to be given by the beneficiary. But I thought the third parties could also put in kind.
No, that was we thought that it could have been a solution, but it's not the good solution. So it's very clear that for a third party, the beneficiary or the affiliated entity will have to provide the 37%. Is that clear? It's very clear that it's like that. We have to exactly follow the rules of the Commission. So it's very clear.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So that means that if you want to have in-kind participation, the best status is to become affiliated entity, but you need to provide the right documentation. We have does it mean POM without any scientific part are not eligible for person months?
Yeah, this is what I mentioned. We accept some sums like that should be spent for the managing of the project, but of course it shouldn't be a big sums, right? So we didn't set any limits, but there is a possibility that the POM, which is not included in the scientific activity, will report cost, but only for management, and they should be adequate to the role that they have in this project as a management.
Thank you. Any other question? And for collection of data in an hospital, for example, I would say if there is a collection of data, it becomes a scientific activity to collect the data. So it's a participant to the project. Thomas, you agree with that? It's a participation to the project. Can a group in Switzerland participate as a third party? Thomas.
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I mean, there is this this group of the third parties giving in-kind contribution instead of receiving financial support. Then giving in-kind the third party giving in-kind contribution, in my opinion, yes. But we need to remember that the countries such as Switzerland or Norway cannot receive any funding from in this call. But yes, they can also like be considered as associated partners. So basically, there is no difference, to be honest, between one or another, because in both cases that they will not receive any funding.
So next question is, can an affiliated entity support participation of two institutions that are considered third party in the call? I think if they are ready to pay the 37% for the two organizations, I think there is no problem about that, but it will cost 2 times 37% of what they request. The external entity that has to be part of the and can with it's not, I don't understand the question. As if you want to ask the question by oral, it will be simplest, no?
Hello,
Yes.
thank you. My question is a requirement that one of the participants of the consortium is not part of the Pianoforte, okay? No, not beneficiary, not affiliated entity. So this entity is what we call third party. Is that right?
Or associated partner. Yeah, now there are two options. Yeah, either third party recipient of the financial support, or third party giving in-kind contribution, or associated partner. So those 3 possibilities.
Okay. So it could be third party giving in-kind contribution, and this in-kind contribution is counted as the total budget also should be counted.
All the costs, even those which are not requested from the EC, must be counted in the budget. It's very simple explanation why, because basically only if we do it in that way, then we are really able to have all the proposals more or less on the same level, yes, because then the total value of the project will be the same for everyone, and this is what we want to have. So only those projects between 1 million and 1.5 million euro, so no more, no less, and that's why we need to include all the costs, even those which are not requested, because thanks to that, then we can be sure that all the projects are more or less like they're in the same size, the same big, yeah, and they can conduct the similar research.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. So there should be always a beneficiary in the consortium, or is it possible a consortium with only affiliated entities and a third party?
Yes, I mean there should be always a beneficiary, because we have this cascade funding, so basically this money need to flow somehow, so it's good to always put the beneficiary, even if it's only the management role, because then we can easily see it in the proposal how does it work. Otherwise we need to go deep inside and read and try to understand. In this way it will be easier for us to understand what the project is, but so that's why there should be a beneficiary, and always even only with the management duties. And what was the second part? Is it possible a consortium with only affiliated? Yeah, okay, so I think I answered that already.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a beneficiary, because they are very useful for the financial flow, because all the money will come from the beneficiary, and the beneficiary will have to sign an accession form when the project is accepted. Can you please publish on the website the template of documents needed to become an A? That's a question that we have very frequently. It doesn't exist any template for becoming an affiliated entity. You just need to provide a document like a cooperation agreement between organizations that is signed by the two organizations. And that's exactly what the Commission requests. So there is no template. It's just to demonstrate that the link exists. So we cannot provide a template for that. Any more questions? Just to make sure a new AE can also be the coordinator, Thomas?
Yes, of course, that's fully possible. But once again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, that's why it's very important to know that the status will be approved, because if it won't be approved and it will be rejected, that basically all your proposal might become ineligible. So it's very important to make sure that the status will be approved before the submission. I mean, it can probably happen even after, and we are ready for this kind of situations too. But for your own like safety, it's better to have it done before the submission.
Okay, what is the maximum amount available for third parties? 300,000 or 100,000 per? I'm going to ask the financial specialist at IRSN. I don't know if Pierre or Saja want to say a few words about this limit. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jean-Christophe. Hello, Thomas. To answer the question, the maximum amounts to be provided to the recipient of financial support to third party, not third party in general, but the specific recipient of financial support to third party is displayed in the call text. So to explain, it is 30,000 euros in case there is a postdoctoral students, a doctoral student, sorry, or a postdoc in the consortium. The third party then will receive maximum 300,000 euros from the beneficiary for the three calls. It's very important to have in mind that this amount is for the three calls, for the three calls, and the 300,000 euros or 100,000 euros if there is no doctoral student or postdoc. This amount, maximum amount, 300,000 euros or 100,000 euros, will be paid to the recipient of financial support to third party by the beneficiary or the affiliated entity if the third party is linked to an affiliated entity. So it is very important to finish that the beneficiary in his budget declares the amount he will pay to its third party, and this amount is maximum 300,000 euros or 100,000 euros, depending of these doctoral students or postdoc in the consortium. You can find it in the call text. So please don't hesitate to come back to us if it's not clear, because it's a technical question indeed.
Thank you, Pierre.
And one more thing, because
sorry.
it's also, I think it's important to remind this point, because this question repeat quite often. So basically, just to make sure, it's either 300,000 or 100,000. So it's not the 300 plus 100.
Yes.
So it's either one or another. You cannot have both. So you need to decide.
I saw it in the question. You're right.
Yes, and
very good point.
Yes, and there was one more thing. What is covered in other cases of the activities? Like, this is what probably Pierre know better than me, because actually it can be everything, I think, but maybe Pierre, you know better what exactly it means. Like this 100,000, for what it can be spent, if not postdoc.
The recipient of financial support to third parties, so we're talking about this particular status, will receive an amount for its action up to 300,000 or 100,000. Its action has to be well explained, not only to the beneficiary that will pay it, but also to the Commission if the Commission wants to have a look. So what the question is, what is covered in other cases of sorry, but I need to check. Okay, sorry, I didn't read very well your question. In other cases of activities, only mean there is no physical doctor student, nor postdoc contract. It means only this. It means in other cases, in other words, if there is no physical doctor and no postdoc contract, the maximum amount the beneficiary will pay to the recipient will be 100,000 euros. This what in other cases means only.
Okay, Pierre. So a very good question. How do you consider a member of a platform which is not POM or affiliated partner? Can they apply as affiliated partner? That's a good question. The platform are member, are partner, are beneficiaries of Pianoforte, but it's up to each platform to decide if one of its member is an affiliated entity or not. So I have no judgment about that. It's possible. If you are a member of a platform, very probably the Commission will agree with the fact that you can be an affiliated entity, but it's up to the platform to decide if they want to become beneficiary for this particular member. So it's really a discussion that you need to have with the president, or I don't know, the people in charge of the platform. It has been the case for some groups during the first call. So if you want to have a clear answer to a question, please contact the platform you are belonging to. What is the next? Can you explain if a legal link signed document can cover a future collaboration in a project with no prior collaboration? From a formal point of view, this document should cover a period prior to the project. But I think there are some kind of flexibility. So do not hesitate to provide any kind of document that can prove that there has been collaboration or there are collaboration between the two organizations, and we will see how it will be received by the Commission. If a consortium contains several affiliated entities, should all their POMs be also included, or only POM to AE, which is coordinator of the proposal? So Thomas, I think we need to have all the beneficiaries at zero cost.
Yeah, just let me check that, okay? Because I was actually right now I was just checking the call text. So let me read the question.
If a consortium contains several affiliated entities, should all their POMs be also included, or only POM to AE, which is coordinator of the proposal? The answer is you need to have all the beneficiaries,
yes,
because we need them to for the flow of the budget.
Once again, like each affiliated entity needs its beneficiary, because the money will be coming through different beneficiaries to its affiliated entity, and then affiliated entity to its third parties, and so on. So yeah, it would be good to include all the beneficiaries, even if they do not perform any scientific activities. So then it will be just easier for us to see it. Of course, if you will not do it, probably it will not lead to rejection, because that's not that important, but it's just easier for us then to see how the project looks like and who is who in the project.
Also, we agree that a consortium with only beneficiaries and affiliated institutes is not eligible. We need at least one third party. That no, it's not. You do not need at least one third party. You need one participant, which is a non-participant to Pianoforte. It can be a third party, or it can be an associated partner, or it can be an affiliated entity, or I would say even perhaps a beneficiary. I don't believe it will happen, but it could be any of this kind of organization. And then a question by Andreas about how do we count third parties? Thomas?
Yes. So that's we need to remember that there are two different type of third parties. There are third parties receiving financial support from its affiliated entity or its beneficiary, and then they cannot that the remaining 37% cannot be in-kind contribution, because then it must be covered by beneficiary or affiliated entity. But in this other case, when there is a different type of the third party, which is mentioned in the call text, is a third party giving in-kind contribution, then of course it can be in kind. But it's at least my understanding. So Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the difference between those two third parties, because there are two different third parties. Yeah, one is related or affiliated to affiliated entity or beneficiary, and another one is not at all.
I don't know if Pierre, you want to complete. I don't know, but I don't know if.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure. It was okay, clear, Thomas. There is also the question by Isil Tekeli. Sorry, Thomas, you were answering to which question exactly?
Here asked by Isil.
Oh yes, okay. So I'm okay with you. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the question by Andreas Blum from BFS.
Andreas, okay,
just
sorry.
you know, okay. But I think Andreas knows the answer. Third parties will be counted.
Yeah. Okay.
Except if you have three partners and you have the beneficiary or the affiliated entity and the third party, depending on these two, on one of these two organizations, because they are not independent. But if you have another third party, it's okay.
Yeah.
You agree with that? That's what is written in the new version of the call text.
Yeah, I mean, what we added to the call text is basically we wanted to highlight that there is a possibility that there will be a third party participating in the project, like third party receiving financial support that will be participating in the project technically without its affiliated entity or beneficiary who participating in the research activity. So basically, it will be also only managing costs from affiliated entity or beneficiary. They will have their third party, but they themselves will not be participating in the research activity. So this is what was added, and let me read the question one again, which is. So subcontractors, we would, I mean, we will not consider subcontractors as a project participants, because I think that wouldn't make much sense, because obviously it's just a subcontracting. So you just giving someone some small activities to do, I don't know, collecting data, for example, or like analyzing data. So we wouldn't consider subcontractors as the participants of the full participant of the consortium. So that's why we won't be counted them to the minimum size of the consortium. But third parties receiving financial support or giving in-kind contributions or associated entity will be counted. So basically that's the case of this at least one external entity. So it might be a third party receiving financial support, third party giving in-kind contribution, or associated partner. So those three entities can fulfill this requirement of one external entity to the current Pianoforte consortium. So we will not be counting subcontractors.
Yes.
I mean,
Very
it
good.
wasn't really the case even last year, basically. We have a small issue with that. Just to be sure this year that we will not have this issue again, we just added that. But basically, nobody really had this idea to include subcontractor as a full project partner to be counted to the minimum size of the consortium. So we just added as an information just to be sure. But I think none of you will have this problem. But just to be sure, external entity, there are third parties and associated partners.
Okay, about could you confirm, please, what you just said about the requirement of external entities, inclusion of at least one external entity. So clearly, if you read the annex in the call text, you have the list of all the participants, the actual participants, beneficiaries, and affiliated entities that are members of the Pianoforte consortium. So we need to have at least one organization which is not in this list. And it can be an affiliate, a new affiliated entity, or a third party, the two kind of third parties, or an associated partners. It should be clear.
Yeah, I think that the question was, I think because before you didn't mention new affiliated entity.
No, sorry, it's a new affiliated entity, sorry.
New affiliated entity can be counted as external because, of course, it will be new to the current consortium.
Exactly. Almudena, who decides that a third party is or is not linked to a beneficiary? It's
Basic.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, it's literally up to the beneficiary or affiliated entity because at the end they will have it in their own budget. So basically, third party receiving financial support is a part of the budget of the affiliated entity or beneficiary. So it's up to beneficiary or affiliated entity if they want to include it or not, because of course, as Jean-Christophe mentioned before, then they need to secure funding for this third party.
Thank you.
Can a third party receive funds from two beneficiaries, say, for example, 300 kilo euro plus 300 kilo euro equals 600 kilo euro? No, I would say no, because it's only 300 kilo. And from this 300 kilo euro, 63% will come from the Commission, and the Commission will not pay two times for one third party.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pierre said it already, but like this 300,000 euro, it's for all three calls. So you cannot receive more than 300,000 for all three calls. Three calls, it's maximum 300,000 euro.
We mentioned subcontractors that cannot be part of the three minimum partners.
Yes, there are mentioned on the page 20 and 21 that it's considered as I mean they can appear in the consortium. There can be a budgetary cost for a subcontractor, but they won't be counted to the minimum size of the consortium. So basically, this minimum size of the consortium is kind of additional requirement made by us to define what's the minimum size of the consortium, and it only means that we will not count them to this requirement. But of course, they can participate in the project. That's not a problem about that, but we won't be counting them to the minimum size of the consortium, which you need to fulfill to be eligible.
Sorry, Thomas, may I just jump in for a second? What I meant that as far as I read the call text, and you were referring in your presentation on the page 20 and 21, in terms of the external entities which are also required, for the applying projects, and here are also listed the subcontractors. Maybe I understand it the wrong way, but it could be a point that could be checked. Otherwise, so as far as I understand, a consortium could be composed maybe with 3 beneficiaries and 1 subcontractor. And that's the question, if this is intended or not.
So basically, as I just said, subcontractors of course can be part of the consortium, but from our point of view, having a situation that there will be subcontractor for example, I don't know, requesting 1,000 euro because they will be doing some interviews, we will not count it as a full partner to the consortium, to this minimum size of the consortium. So like we want to be sure that all the consortium has this minimum size, which is basically 3 legal entities, and one of them at least is an external entity. So in this case, we will not count them to the minimum size of the consortium, but they can be they can participate. They have their place in the budget, and they can participate, of course.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely makes sense in terms of the size of the consortium. But what I meant was really because a new, like the external, a new partner. That was my question targeted to, if a subcontractor could be considered as the new entity, as the external Pianoforte external entity. And that's what is my interpretation of the call text on the pages 20 and 21, which you were referring to, and that was the question I wanted to write to raise, and not about if a subcontractor is going count in terms of do we need 3 partners, 4 partners,
yes, now
etc.
now I got it. Yes, sorry.
For many consortia, it could be a question. So
yes.
Do they find a third party, or maybe it would be much more easier to contractor, maybe. So that was the point. I just wanted
I did not understand it. Yeah, okay. Now I get you 100%.
So sorry.
Yeah, no. That's completely on me. That's actually a very good question. I think we would have to double check it, because I mean, we wrote that the subcontractors won't be counted. It was also because of that we would try to avoid the situation when subcontractor who, I don't know, requests only 1,000 euro will be just taken just to fulfill the minimum criteria. And so we wanted to avoid that. That's why we wrote it about the subcontractor, but then we didn't think about this second point, that there must be one out of the current consortium. So that's something what we will check, and definitely we will update the call text with additional information about that. So I'm sorry, but I'm not able to answer it right now, but as soon as possible we will add it to the website, because as you said, yeah, I guess it's kind of important information for most of the consortium, because that can happen. So yeah, we will verify that and get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you. Can a company act as a third party? I think you mentioned that the company can act as a third party, but they need to have the support of a beneficiary to be funded for the 37%.
Yes, they definitely can be. They are mentioned as entities which can participate in the project as a third parties, and basically they don't need to fulfill the requirement regarding the gender equality plan as the other institutions, but it's also written in the context. But yeah, they can definitely.
Okay. 3 calls for the 300,000 euros. Can you explain?
So basically,
just give an example with a given third party.
Yeah, I will try, but definitely, like, basically, it is possible that, for example, we have one company which is a third party in the first call already and requested, for example, 150,000 euro already. So basically, in this second call, if this party, this company would like to participate in another project as a third party receiving this financial support, at this case, they can only request maximum 150,000 because they already use 150. So the 300,000 means that it's for 3 calls. How it's going to be divided? It's completely up to the third party. We don't have any requirements about that, but in total, in the 3 calls, it cannot be more than 300,000 or 100,000. So it's either that or another, yeah.
Okay, I just want to mention that it's not a Pianoforte rule, it's a EC rule.
Yes, yes, of course. Of course, it's not our rule.
But one third party can get 300,000 in one call, yes, but they will not be to apply to the next call as a third party.
Exactly. And this 300,000 means requested. So it's this 300,000 is 63%. Okay, so in total, it's like the total contribution, for example, I think is something around 450,000, but the maximum they can receive is 300,000 euro.
On the example of the company participating as third party, they could participate A, receiving 100% of funding. Yes, 37% by the beneficiary AE and 63% from the commission. Okay, but also participate with in-kind contribution. Is it right? No, it's false. They cannot participate as a third party with in-kind contribution. It's mandatory that they get funding from the beneficiary.
I mean, in case if there are these third-party recipients of the financial support,
exactly.
Because we have those 2 different types of the third party. So I think the question is if they can participate in kind contributions, meaning being this second type of the third party, then of course they, in my opinion, they can be this second type of the third party, which are not in the budget of a beneficiary or affiliated entity. But maybe Pierre to verify.
Yes, to complete, not to go in the sense of Thomas, you have to choose one of the status proposed if you want to participate in a consortium, whether recipient of financial to a third party, your example, or in-kind contribution, in-kind contributor, but just let me, in your question, there was a doubt because the little b, you said, or also. So it's receiving, it's the A or B, not A and B, not A, you said, or also participate. So say A or B, but you can't have 2 status in the same consortium. So yes, it's okay.
Even in one case, you either receive some money, meaning this 63%, and then 37 from the beneficiary, or the other option is that you will not receive anything and you will be giving full in-kind contribution. But you cannot switch between those 2.
May I add something? Almudena said in a few minutes ago that you talked, Almudena, about third party, about in-kind contribution. So you can bring, as said Thomas, in-kind contribution. The resources the in-kind contributor bring to the consortium will be at the disposal of the beneficiary or the affiliated entity. And this beneficiary will declare these resources as if they were its own resources. It is very important. But this in-kind contributor should not receive any money unless there is a specific contract, what we call in-kind contribution against payment. But this is a particular case, and usually when an in-kind contributor brings its resources to a beneficiary, it is free of charge. There is no payment for this in-kind contributor. So this in-kind contributor usually does not receive any money, but the people, especially the people, this in-kind contributor put at the disposal of its beneficiary will have some will enrich themselves, and indirectly they will bring a lot of information to the in-kind contributor. Just to finish, the question is this right? So I would say no, it is not right, because you can participate with two status, recipient of financial support to third party, and at the same time in-kind contributor. It's one or the other. So
okay, Pierre. Okay, thank you. What is maximum funding a third party can receive? Again, it's 100,000 or 300,000 euro in total, taking into account
yes,
what comes from the Commission and what comes from the beneficiary or the affiliated entity.
Yes, Thomas, may I speak on this point?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it is
short,
a
please,
question
Pierre.
we received during the first call. The recipient of financial support party will receive maximum 300,000 euros, depending if there is a postdoc or a doctorand student, for the 3 courses. This is okay for everyone. This amount, 300,000 euros maximum, is the amount that will receive the recipient from its beneficiary in cash, and depending if the action is done or not, for sure. If the action is done, when the action is done and well done, the beneficiary will pay 300,000 euros max to its recipient, as if it were a subcontract, in fact, but it's not a subcontract. But as if it were a subcontract, the Commission insisted on this point. The beneficiary in this case will receive 63% of the amount it will have declared and paid to its recipient. The beneficiary will receive 63% of the amount it will have paid to its recipient. In this case, 63% per 300,000 euros, and the 37% remaining, this famous 37% remaining, is supported by the beneficiary only because the Commission is very strict on this point. The beneficiary has to pay part of the amount of the action of the recipient.
Okay, Pierre. Okay, so I think it's nearly 3:30. I hope we were able to answer your questions. Do not hesitate to contact us if you need information. Again, I encourage you to read carefully the call text. It's important to have all the information. And I don't know if we have a very last question. I just check. No, I think Firota answered. So thank you very much for your attendance to this webinar. We hope you will be many to answer to this call. You will give a lot of work to Thomas, but anyway, it's his job. So now the job is in your hand. Do not forget the date of 23rd of July. I don't remember at which hour, but it's written somewhere. And we hope that this meeting, this webinar was useful for all. And I wish you a very good and of afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Thomas. A special thanks and thank you to IRSNT.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
thank you
day.
very much.
Bye-bye.